Viewer discretion is advised.
If there's anyone watching, man, and you sort of feel that you can't leave your room, I encourage you to get up and leave that room. Will be the best decision you ever made.
Mandate.
Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is from Tamaki Makaurau out in Okilani. He is one of the leading reggae musicians or artists in Australasia. You know him by the infamous music and his melodic sound, and also the sultry voice from his music like Tell Me. If Tomorrow Never Comes, you got Where Do I Go, and also Slow Wind, and also Homebound. And so please put your hands together for the man who is another son of the Kingdom of Tonga, the Toko'ua, the amazing, the immaculate Suez.
What's up, my Tokos? Thanks for having me, man. It was quite a good intro there, Anos. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you so much, Toko. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man as well. I know you just come back from Australia, but Toko, just to get the ball rolling, because you're well known. I know your journey as a teen. You started as a teen, and I know a lot of people might know that. But tell us in terms of the music industry and also getting into reggae, because you're more into the R&B, and then how did it kind of shift from R&B to reggae?
I think, I had older brothers who sort of got me into the R&B, like Boyz II Men and Casey and JoJo, all those sort of groups. And then as I was getting older, I sort of, there was always Fiji around, there was always UB40 around, but I think it was a guy by the name of J Boog. When he came out in 2008, that sort of gave me this whole perspective of like island reggae, you know what I mean? And then, as you do when you're sort of recording, you sort of try out different things. And I just felt like I sort of gravitated more towards the feel-good, happy side of music, which was island reggae, you know what I mean? Just for example, you could hear island reggae song and the lyrics could be sad, but the music's still pretty pumping, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's what it was. It was about being able to create feel-good music and create good vibes.
So was that always the plan for you in terms of growing up? Obviously, music is instrumental in your life and in your family and so forth. But was that always the trajectory for you to go, man, I'm going to make music. I'm gonna be well known. People are going to know me. They're going to know who I am. Yeah,
I think as a kid, it was always a dream. But then at the same time, growing up, especially in in a Pacific Island family, those dreams are still a bit very far. I mean, especially at that time, you know what I mean? It was more, you either go out there, work hard, study, or play rugby. So, that music thing was always a dream, but it wasn't necessarily something that I thought was possible, but it was something that I always wanted to do. I learned from a pretty young age that I loved performing and being able to put smiles on people's faces, and I think, that's what I wanted to do, like, eventually. So.
Damn. So when did you know, like, this is it, I'm going all in on music?
And I think it was about the age of 14. I met some cousins. At this time we were living in Australia, Brisbane, Australia. My dad, we sort of didn't have the best year at school that year, so my dad sent me and my brother up, and we all went up and started picking grapes up North Queensland. I guess that was sort of like a disciplinary thing, you know what I mean, for not sort of doing so well at school. But then I met my cousins there, and they were from down in Melbourne, and they sort of had their own little sort of how would you say it, little recording setup. And then I learnt that you could actually record yourself at home. So then from that moment on, I was like, you know what, when I go back home to Brisbane, I'm going to figure out and do whatever I can to get me this software and all these tools. So, you know what I mean? I ended up, I think at the time it was LimeWire, where you could, get a lot of these. Sorry, kids, you won't understand this. But LimeWire was the software where you could download things for free without actually paying for them. And I found a program called Acid Pro and Fruity Loops, which I could make beats on. Then I just had a little simple chat mic, and that was pretty much it. So it got me started.
Man, and you were only 14?
Yeah, 14. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Like, what helps drive that passion to pursue that like music? Because, a lot of our youngins, when we find the interest in something, it's easy for us to, for our parents to like shoot down your dream, because like it's not the norm. Especially in PR families during that time, it's like always lawyer, like you say, rugby player, doctor. but it was like you found the interest, something you ran and learned and taught yourself. Like, did anyone help support or push your dream?
Yeah, I think, what you're saying is very much true. In the beginning, it was sort of my parents, they're sort of, I was always locked up in my bedroom recording, and you sort of hear them saying tongue, and they're like, "Tuku e mo mama taimi," you know what I mean? Which as they do, you know what I mean? So I understand where they're coming from at the time, but then, I think eventually they saw that I was a little bit good at it. And the whole drive for me was that I knew I could sing a little bit. So then I had to teach myself how to write and create songs and things like that. So I think knowing that I was a little bit good at something drove me to really sort of push for it, because the rugby dream wasn't working. So
Was there pressure? Because, your older brother?
Yeah.
Was there pressure to like follow his path?
Definitely. I think it's not just Sika. I mean, we come from a family that's been dominated by sort of rugby. You know what I mean? My dad's first cousin was one of the first Tongan Wallabies. His name was Daniel Manu. You know what I mean? So I've come from a family that's pretty sports driven. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think there was pressure there. But like I said, I found something that I was good at, which was a bit different. You know what I mean? And yeah, I wasn't too good at rugby, so I went the other way.
When I think of your story and you're just sharing, I think about High School Musical and Troy Bolton. What's his name? And I was like, man, we need a Pacific Island one. Hey, you could be that Southern one. Shadows.
But how was it? Because I know with our Tongan people, in terms of education, because education is quite massive. Obviously, the Tonga per capita, the highest, the most degrees in terms of our Pacific people. And so, was education like a big thing in the household for you, or was it just you just knew very well, like, hey, this is the education system is not for me?
Yeah, I think I knew at a pretty young age. Like I'm more of a practical person than someone who sort of does well with theory. You know what I mean? And all my report cards pretty much said I was easily distracted. So I kind of knew from then that I wasn't going to go uni or anything after school. But yeah, I think if anything, I think it's always an important thing within, especially not just our Tongan, but our Pacific communities. I think they're real big on pushing education, just having something to fall back on. And to be honest with you, I sort of do regret not taking school that seriously, because now I've only got music to rely on. You know what I mean? So, if anything, I think education is still very important.
Awesome.
Man, that's cool. I like that you mentioned practical over theory, because I think there's a lot of us that are sort of similar. We just learn differently from like sitting with a textbook. Like sometimes we just can't do it. And I just thought it was cool that you acknowledged that. I was curious about, you mentioned you were kind of good at music. You found that you had like kind of a talent in one area, but then there were other aspects like writing and all that sort of stuff that you really had to work hard on. Yeah. What was the most difficult thing to work on in terms of like having one talent in one area, but then you have to work on all these other areas?
I think I think I sort of had the vocal stuff sort of down packed. Then it was writing. Writing was, it was easy, because you'd sort of listen to other songs and sort of listen to how they used words and phrases in that. And then I think the hardest part for me, and even till nowadays, is still production of piecing the music together behind it. So I still always get friends in that to help me sort of piece the music together. But, nowadays I sort of direct them a little bit more in terms of what sounds I want and things. But yeah, I think the production of the music would definitely be the hardest part.
So in terms of the music now, you talk about production and so forth, but have you come to a place where you felt like, man, I need to evolve, I need to do something different with my sounds, because everyone else might be kind of doing the same thing. Have you come to a place that, I just need to change things up a bit? Yeah,
definitely. I think as artists, like, over time, you're always trying to look for ways to sort of grow away, you know what I mean? How would I say? I'm not the same kid that I was 10 years ago, you know what I mean? Back then I was a single kid coming into the industry fairly fresh, whereas now I'm I've been in this game a bit long. I've got 3 kids, so then the music obviously has to change. I had to sort of think about what my kids are going to be hearing coming out of my mouth and all those sort of things too. But I think overall, I think as artists you're always trying to sort of find things that, and I think sort of refresh your hunger for why we do what we do too, because like anything else, if you keep it the same, it's always going to eventually go stale. So I think that's something that I'm always looking to do.
Have you experienced like a creative block and just I don't know, man. I'm just trying to figure out the song. I don't know, this melody. Is this just? If so, Dogo, like how bad has it been for you in terms of that creative block?
Oh, it happens always. It happens always, Docs. You know, it's just one of those things. Like one day you might write a song in 15 minutes, and you know it might take you 15 weeks to create a verse. You know what I mean? So I think it's just one of those things. I think it also comes back down to just taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? Always making sure, like, you know, if your mind's not right, you're never going to be able to do anything right, eh? So I think it's, you know, it's those sort of things. So if I'm in a good space mentally, the music flows, you know what I mean? So,
And in terms of that understanding about, like, being in a good space, like, mentally, have you always been like that, or was that something you had to identify throughout your journey?
yeah, I think it's something that I had to identify. You know, like I was saying earlier, obviously life's changed for me in a big way since I first came into the industry. You know, I came into this industry with no kids, no misses, you know what I mean? You sort of, you know, and then over time, you know, you have all these other priorities that you've got to balance as well, you know what I mean? And as much as I would like to spend all my time focusing solely on my music, I've still got my kids to take care of. I've got my wife to make sure that I'm, you know, keeping her happy too. So I do have different priorities that I have now in my life. And I think it's, you know, they're saying, what do they say? Happy wife, happy life. So you've got to make sure you balance everything and maintain everything well before you can sort of, you know, get everything else done right. So.
Man.
So how do you balance everything then? Because that's a lot on your plate.
Well, it is. I think it's one of those ones. I've just learnt to adapt with it over time. You know what I mean? Like with my kids, my older two going to school now, like me and my wife will have like a thing where I sort of let her know if I've got a project that I need to finish in studio. So then when the kids go off to school that morning, I'm in studio for those 6 hours while they're at school. Or, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's just communication between me and my wife. You know what I mean? I think a big thing that we always speak about is that communication. You know what I mean? You're not always going to get it right, but I mean, if there's communication there, then, you know, it makes things, you know, a lot easier. You know, so say for example, if we need to record her because, you know, she doesn't necessarily like to record herself, she'll just like to do the whole, you know, do her thing on the mic while I press record and things like that. We'll sort out for our kids to go to their grandparents or things like that. So those are ways of, you know, sort of helping relieve a lot of the extra pressure and things. It's just that communication between me and my wife, you know.
So, well, how did you guys meet anyway? Because I'm just wondering how did you and Tree meet? Because obviously you guys powerhouses in terms of music and your singing, but how did it come about together that you guys became this couple?
Yeah, I met her on my first tour here in New Zealand. It was actually, I don't know if you guys know, but there's Woody's bar out in Manurewa. So I had a show there, and one of her friends was one of the opening acts. So she was just there hanging out sort of thing. And then we sort of met that night, and then it wasn't really anything at first. And then I think we sort of met up a few times after that, and then we just became really good friends. You know what I mean? And I still remember at the early stages, all the people around us were like, you two are going to end up together. And we're like, nah, we're calling each other doxers and everything, you know? I think that was our way of hiding that we, you know, like, he got out of the friend zone. Yeah, and then, I think, you know, one thing led to another, and yeah, we're married now, and yeah.
In the beginning, I love you, docs.
Yeah. Bro, even if I slip out the word docs, no, she's like, don't call me docs.
Cool, man. Oh, man.
So now you rep 685.
Yeah. Hey.
It's a fine line, It's a fine line, man.
Hey, I'm telling you guys this, man. I loved the World Cup last year, but I was driving with a broken heart around Rugby. I was like,
was your wife giving it to you?
My wife and my kids had their flags out the window. I was peeping the horn, and I was like doing it with a bad heart. I was like, I do not want to be here right now. And then one of the tokos came up to me and he goes, "When one win, we all win, toko." And in my mind, I'm like, only 1-1. Nah. 65, man. 65.
Sure, I was just gonna say, like, in terms of like being in the game for this long, like, what keeps you driven?
I think my wife and my kids, if anything. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, everything that I do is for them now. You know what I mean? So, you know, whatever it is, I hope, whether it be setting a good example for them or whether it be providing for them, you know, I just, that's what drives me, being able to take care of my family and also just doing what I love as well. So, yeah.
Will we hear a gospel album coming out soon, or?
Man, me and Chi have spoken about it. I'd love to. You know what I mean? I think, I think we, you know, as islanders, we sort of, you know, start singing off in the church and things like that. So, you know, none of this will be possible without the man upstairs. So I think it's only right that we sort of, you know, give thanks. So yeah, I'll definitely look into it. I don't, you know, I can't say when I'll do it, but it's definitely something that's on the bucket list.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
And you and your wife are both powerhouses in terms of New Zealand music, and now you got kids. Have you seen any musical talent in your kids, and is it something you want your children to come through?
Bro, I see it every day. You know what I mean? So all three of them, they love music. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. I think, I think if anything, as a parent, whether it be music or not, whatever they decide to do, I'm going to support them 100%. I think, you know, my kids' happiness is everything to me. You know what I mean? If they wanted to be a dancer, if they wanted to be an actor, you know, even if they went the other way and did what we were supposed to do and become lawyers, I'll support them too. So I think for me, it's just, whatever they decide that they want to do is thing. And if it's music, then obviously I have some sort of experience in it where I can help them out and, you know, that would work out better for me. But yeah, whatever it is that they decide to do, I'll support them 100%.
Are there, like when you think about the possibility of your kids following in your footsteps, are there aspects about your experience in the music industry that make you like, oh man, if they do want to pursue it, I have to prep them for this? Like, are there a little bit like some fears in terms of like the way the industry can be? Because I imagine it can be quite ruthless at times.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, if they were to decide to, that's the sort of things I would be sort of, you know, I wouldn't want to warn them about it because I wouldn't want them to be scared. I think if anything, it's this industry is a crazy industry, but I think if you sort of, how would you say it, sort of get a bit more knowledge on it before you actually get into the industry, then it will help you a million times, you know, better in the long run. So I think if anything, I'll sort of more prep them in that way. But then at the same time, I'll become a dad or a manager or whatever. You know? But I think if anything, I would never sort of try and do anything that will scare them off, because I think music's a beautiful thing, especially if it's done the right way. And I think like anything else, anything can be beautiful if you know what I mean, learn to see the good in things. And yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And what kinds of things, like, because, you know, with any passion, like it can be a beautiful thing, but then sometimes to take it from a beautiful passion or a hobby into something that can provide for your family and pay the bills, like sometimes there are, you know, blockades and things like that, and you sort of mentioned being able to prepare them, or that some knowledge beforehand can go a long way. What's an example of like just some knowledge that could help? Perhaps there's a listener out there that's looking to get into music, or some of our up and coming youngsters that are coming through. What's some knowledge that maybe you could share in terms of preparing them? Or
man, I think one of my biggest things, I know it sounds cliche, but just backing yourself. You know what I mean? Making sure that you surround yourself with people who believe in you, and I think if anything, is just believing in the talent that you have. I think, you know, not everything's going to start off perfect, but if you keep chipping away at it, it's going to get better and better over time. So I think it's just, being confident, you know what I mean? Not letting the wrong people be around you, you know what I mean? I say this, like from experience, when before I sort of came into the industry, I had my older brother, shout out to my brother Dodge. He was that guy that whatever I made, he was sort of there just like hyping me up the whole time. And it's sort of, you know, as much as I listened back to that music and I was like, whack, what were we doing? But at the same time, it sort of, you know, built my confidence to continue sort of chipping away at my craft and things like that. And I think if anything, that's what I mean by sort of surrounding yourself with people who do believe in you, because I think he believed in me well before I sort of knew that I could potentially make something out of this. And then, you know, my older brother Sika, he decided after my chat mics, he decided he was going to go and buy me a proper studio mic and all those sort of things. So being able to have people around you who are going to, you know, they might not necessarily need to say it, but it's the things that they do to show you that they're there for you and they believe in you that sort of make a big difference. So yeah, that's all I'd like to push them with is, you know, back yourself and put some good people around you who sort of are there for you. You know what I mean?
Man, it seems like a recurring theme, Usos, in terms of backing yourself, but also having the right supports.
Yeah.
We have several other guests who've said, "Oh man, you need to surround yourself with in the midst of some good people and good supports and people who are going to kind of you know, just kind of cheer you on and be your cheerleaders." Yeah. And so, who are the main? Obviously, your family, but who outside of your circle do you depend on and do you see as people who have got your back?
There's quite a few. I mean, within our industry, you know, we've got quite a good, you know, sort of good group of friends. But yeah, I think if anything, it's more so my family, because my family are always going to be there. You know what I mean? You know, as much as we have our friends and that around us, you know, they're not always going to be there to pick me up when I'm down. You know what I mean? So I think I tend to rely on my family a lot. You know, so, yeah.
Man, that's cool. And just speaking of like, you know, the recurring theme of backing yourself, why is it so hard for people to back themselves, you reckon?
Yeah, more so our people.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for us is, you know, I think as islanders, we've always been taught to be, you know, what they say is humble, you know what I mean? And humble is not speaking highly of yourself and things like that. But I think being humble or being confident and arrogant are two totally different things, and I think that's where it gets mixed up. I think being confident is, you know, it's something that we need to do, and that's what backing yourself is, trusting in your ability. Being arrogant is when you start to bring other people down in the process, you know what I mean? So that's where I see this, and I think there's a fine line between it, but I encourage everyone to back themselves and be confident about what they do. You know what I mean? And it's not always easy, but I think if anything, like, you know, it's very important to understand that, you know, what you've been given is a blessing, and you should be, you know, sort of doing your best in it.
That's cool. Because being in the industry that you're in, Swiss, you know, I'm just assuming that you would have, in your time in the industry, I'm assuming that you would have met those kind of personal or figures who are like just real arrogant, cutthroat, and if so, Togo,
Who are they?
Name and shame. Yes. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? There's like you said, there's a fine line of confidence and arrogance, and when you meet people in the industry who are quite arrogant, what's your take on that? How do you process that? How do you deal with those individuals?
I think it's just one of those things, sort of each to their own. You know what I mean? I'm not the type to see someone like that and then sort of try and how would you say, confront them, or, you know what I mean, bring them back down or anything like that. I think if anything, it's each to their own. Everyone sort of has their own reasons why they are the way that they are. So I sort of just let them be. I might not hang around them as much, but you know what I mean? I think, yeah, there's a reason why that person might be that way. So I'll just, you know, sort of let them be.
Wow.
And that kind of ties into a question, and legit, this is a question from one of my students at school who wanted to know about the industry. Is gatekeeping an issue in the industry that you find?
Yes and no. I think we can sort of sit here and say that there are gatekeepers, but I think there's multiple doors now. You know what I mean? There's not necessarily just one way. I think back when I sort of came into the game, it was you had to be signed to a record label. You had to release your stuff on CDs and things like that. So I think, yeah, there is, but I think there's multiple doors and avenues now that we can sort of go through. And I think internet's a big one. You know what I mean? The internet has grown so much over the years that I think social media in itself is one big door, and there's, as much as there's so many people on there, I think there's there's an opportunity and a platform for anyone to showcase their talents, you know what I mean? So I don't believe in the whole gatekeeping thing. I think in certain areas, yes. But I think if anything, if you work hard, no one's going to be able to deny your hard work,
Yeah, true. So what's the best way now? I'm hearing a lot of independent artists going independent, doing their own thing. Is that something that's quite popular now with all the music artists? Are they just to go independent instead of being signed up to a label or to a record label?
Yeah, I think, it's because it's easy enough to do it now, you know what I mean? Back then, you sort of had to have like a marketing team and like all that sort of stuff. Radio's not really as big as it was anymore, and podcasts have become the thing, you know what I mean? So I think times have changed, and I think it's one of those ones where the kids, like I said, there's a lot more accessibility in terms of being able to get your name, or you know what I mean, more platforms and stuff to be able to get your name out there now. And I think there's no one way anymore, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's cool, man.
Also, have you ever had any regrets?
Ooh.
685.
Waking up at 3 a.m. to watch that game, not really. I think if anything, like there would have been times where I would have been like, I regretted this and that. But I think as you get older, you sort of realize that everything just happens the way that it's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? So I think, it's, yes, I would say that I would have, like to have things go like a certain way, but I don't regret a thing else. You know what I mean? I'm happy with my life and where I'm at now. So
that's cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Just that game.
Just that game. Have you ever had a rock bottom moment?
Yes. 2014. I don't think a lot of people knew, but I sort of packed my bags and gave up music and went back to Australia for about a year. I think at that time my head just wasn't in the right space. Was on a whole different kind of drugs and things like that. And I think, if anything, at that time I just felt like I needed to go home and go to my parents, and that was one of the best decisions I made, because I think if I had stayed on any longer and tried to kick on, I don't think it was going to be the best thing for me. So I think that would probably have been my rock bottom there. So
wow. Was there anything that led you to drug abuse, or was it just trying things and it just became addictive, or were there things happening?
Yeah, I think coming into the industry, I was a pretty heavy weed smoker. So you know what I mean? Obviously, they say when you smoke weed, you feel all these different. When you hear music, it's like a whole different thing. So I think, if anything, I got carried away with it. You know what I mean? And being in this industry, it's a lot easier to get these sort of things. But then at the same time, I think for me, it was more so the pressures of my life changing so drastically. Being a kid who was singing music at home on a guitar with just his brothers around supporting him, to eventually being on the world stage where I was traveling to places like America and Australia, and just I think for me it just with my life changing that fast, I think it just became a little bit too much. I think the way that I went about sort of leaving music, I don't think that was the best way at the time. I think if there's anything, I would have done that a little bit better, but I think I just needed that break, and I needed to go home to mum and dad and just feel somewhat sort of love, because this is a lonely industry, man. It's a lonely thing, you know what I mean? If I was to tell you that 100 friends that I had back when I first came into this game, I could text them now, none of them will reply, you know what I mean? And that's just how fast it can all change, you know what I mean? So, I think that's, at that time, I think I was starting to realize that, you know what I mean? A lot of the love and stuff that I was getting, I'm not saying that, there wasn't any there was a lot of genuine love out there, but then I also realized that, that there was a lot that wasn't genuine as well, and I just needed to go home.
That's mean.
It must be difficult in terms of, because I imagine sometimes You know, when you have lots of friends at one period of time and then everything changes and they're gone, it must be hard not to take that personally and feel like, man, like it must affect your self-worth so much. And I imagine that was a big part of the battle in terms of taking it personally, as opposed to, you know, now you can look back and be like, that's kind of part of the territory when you come up and life changes. But at the time, it must have been hard in terms of taking it personally.
I think at the time, they sort of, at the time, no one had sort of left me, but I could start to feel that a lot of the friendships and the relationships that I built weren't as solid as, you know what I mean, as they, you know, as I would have thought, you know what I mean? So, you know, like anything, I just, you know, I knew that the only people who really loved me unconditionally was my parents. And, you know, I sort of felt that I needed to go back to home base and sort of recollect myself and regather myself, you know, before I was to do anything else in life. So, yeah, I actually hung up the mic at that time.
Wow.
You know, so...
Well, how long was that period also in terms of like being with mum and dad and just really coming out of that place of being rock bottom?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was kind of hard to explain to mum and dad what I was going through, because they, you know, for them, you know, they, you know, to a lot of people, they thought that I was doing well, you know what I mean? And they sort of didn't want me to miss out on this opportunity of, you know, fulfilling my dream sort of thing. And I just, I think it was hard, but I tried to explain to them at the most that I just needed to get away from anything. I think it got to a point where I sort of didn't want to hear music, and, you know, everything just changed. I think, you know, also, like, when you're doing music for the love of it and it becoming a business, it all changes as well, you know what I mean? It changes your whole perspective on a lot of things, and then you almost fall into traps of making music for the wrong reasons, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so I think eventually I was able to heal and find my way back. But yeah, it was a difficult one at first, you know what I mean? I think everyone was sort of wondering why I sort of wanted to give it up. I think they saw that, you know, from the outside, everyone saw this beautiful thing, but no one knew what I was sort of dealing with on the inside, So.
You talk about healing, Swiss, and so you went to see mum and dad. What was so significant in terms of mum and dad helping you and supporting you? What was the magic touch, so to speak, in terms of mum and dad's wisdom, or was it just being in the midst of mum and dad?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I said, like, my life changed drastically. You know, before that, I was just a snotty-nosed kid. You know, I was just your average Tongan kid, you know what I mean? And I think there was a lot of pressure in terms of going out into public and being viewed in a certain way and being expected to uphold myself in a certain manner. And I sort of fell to that, Like, I think, if anything, like, how would you say it in Taiwan? I'm a pretty Ulavale kid, you know what I mean? So it was kind of hard going out there and not being myself, you know what I mean? So, I think I was able to go home to mum and dad and just be myself. And there were people who, you know, who knew me before all the music stuff and accepted me that way, you know what I mean? So I knew that if I was to go back to them, whatever it was that I was going to do, they were still going to love me anyway, you know what I mean? And I think that's why I wanted to go into mum and dad.
There's something about going to your parents and you just being a kid. So because you've been away from them for so long. Yeah, it's like you're always having to be the man. But then when your parents are around, it's like, oh shucks, I like being fed. I like the attention, you know. And then, man, when my parents come, like, and then my wife was like, look at you, what a baby. I was like, man, I don't get this all the time, man.
That's true, bro.
So there's, you know, there's that thing about just being around your family where you can just be you, and there's no like real pressure to be anything else, because they're gonna love you unconditionally.
Yeah, of course. You know, and I think, you know, it's something that, you know, we sort of forget at times too. You know what I mean? That our parents will always love us unconditionally. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, shout out to your parents.
Yeah, that's so cool. Because you can, I think in the industry, you can, like you said, there's an instance where you felt like you couldn't be yourself, and you can kind of lose yourself in the whole process.
Yeah.
How do you think? How do you kind of differentiate in terms of this is who I really am versus this is who I need to be, or is there a persona you have to convey to people?
Yeah, I think I'm in the process now, sort of breaking out of it. It's taking me so long. I think because when I came into this industry, it was sort of the in between of the CD era before the streaming era, and I think at that time there was a lot of exclusivity about being an artist. You know what I mean? And how would you say it was still heavily about marketing. You know what I mean? And I think now we live in a day and age where authenticity is everything. You know what I mean? I would have preferred way more to come out in this day and age. But yeah, I think I'm still slowly making that transition of trying to sort of break out of, that old mold that I was sort of, found myself in.
Man, good on you, Toko.
So who is Swiss?
Who's Swiss? He's your typical Tongan kid. Like I'm that dude who will rock up to a house party, see everyone partying like this, and I'll come in on this level. You know what I mean? Like, and you can ask all our music mates, bro. Like, what happens at the back of the festival stages, mate? I'm usually one of the ringleaders of it. But yeah, I think that's that's the sort of thing. Like I want to be able to be myself. You know what I mean? I want to. Yeah, especially in those sort of things. Yes, I understand that there's times where, we've got to be responsible and things like that. But if I can be like this around my family, I should be able to be like this around the world. And I think those are the things that I'm sort of trying to sort of break out of now and just really be in my full self, you know what I mean?
That's exciting news.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Because it's like, I love what you said, Swiss, to just be yourself in the midst of, in your family, and then you see yourself out in public. And that's something that's kind of appropriate to share, because in this day and age, in terms of our men, I wonder how many of us can be their authentic selves.
Yeah.
And just be who they are without getting cut at the knees or people prejudging you or all these preconceptions of who you are. And how many of us feel liberated just to be themselves? And for all of us, I think it's a hard road, eh? Sometimes,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that challenging when I was pastoring.
Yeah.
Because, as a pastor, people's view of a pastor is like, you got to be holy and all this. I'm not saying I wasn't holy, but like their view of me was very different of who
they had in their mind.
Their mind. So when I used to introduce myself to a lot of the young adults for the first time, like, hey, blah, 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 say whatever, just be me. And then they'll feel comfortable but then they see me walking towards the pulpit, and then I get introduced as pastor, and they'll go, "Is that the pastor?" And I think that's and so like I always like, man, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think we need to break the stereotypes. You know what I mean? Like I think like what you're saying. I think there's we all have this image of a pastor, but I think the stereotypes of the pastor, back then is no longer the the pastor nowadays. And I think everyone should be able to be who they are, whether they're a pastor or whatever it is that they're doing. They should be able to be themselves. And think we can't sort of categorize everyone and expect them to be a certain way. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right, man.
I'm a Rasta now.
A tight jeans wearing Rasta. Sorry guys, I know you guys can't see it, but that also you can see the triangle. Hey,
just
jeans
brings me
look
to
like
my
pasta jeans right now.
brings me to my question, Toko. Like, this is a hard question that our viewers been dealing with for the last week, and it's like, do you wear triangle undies or jockeys?
Hey, I'll tell you this, man. I think anyone's lying if they don't have those backup triangle ones in their jockeys.
See, all of these are lying.
But it's the string ones that I'm worried about.
Which you mean the literal string or just
shoelaces?
Yeah, I'm not on my own, guys.
No, I think you're lying if you don't have any of those as backup, bro.
Yeah. But Swiss said backup, not
Backup.
backup.
Yeah.
But the only bad thing is that like if you're a natural guy who just low rides, because then if you're wearing those triangle ones.
No, let's keep on talking about this because I think this is therapy for me. First, I didn't know I was the only one, and then second, I was like, I had to process it this week. Okay, hey, why do I wear triangle undies? And that's for the convenience, bro. It's like the cheapest ones.
The Rio ones.
Everything I. The Rio. Now let's move on now.
Rio is sponsored by also Levi's. Give us some
Levi's, Calvin Klein. Back to the real question.
I was gonna say, but I remember growing up on triangles, but then you make the transition to the.
There was someone that commented like, "Real men wear triangles," so I'm staying on that.
Oh yeah.
Nah, you know what gets me? Some of you women, you guys are commenting on triangle and jockeys. Are you guys wearing our undies? Okay, sorry, let's carry on. Let's move on.
My wife was one of them that commented.
I don't want to share what she wrote.
Don't out me like that ever again, right?
Oh man, Malo Rio. Well,
We'll get back to that one at the end. I want to come back to that one.
No, it's funny. I was just gonna ask about because we were talking about cancel culture before and authenticity, and just making that adjustment because previously when we were growing up, like you have to wear lots of different hats, and even now sometimes a lot of us wear different hats, so it's really hard to be authentic. Like although logically it makes sense for us, like we want to be authentic and we know that it's a good thing to be authentic. There's just something about. Because of being conditioned to be a certain way, like it's really hard in reality to try and be authentic everywhere.
And it's something as simple as like us being islanders and being a different kid at home to who we were at school. When we're at school, we're the man. you know what I mean? And then when we're at home, all of a sudden we're all quiet. You know what I mean? And I think it's all sort of, it's killed us in the long run. But I think that's what I was saying before about my kids. I want to encourage them to do whatever they want and whatever makes them happy because I don't want them to have to shift through those different characters. You know what I mean? I think I want them to be themselves all the way through, and that's the only way we're going to be able to, communicate is if I allow them to be who they want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For sure.
Has there been a time, Source, in terms of we talk about authenticity, where you felt like I needed to be this is who I really am, but you just felt like I just can't be this. I can't be myself. Has there been a time where you're like, man, I wish I could turn back time and say, man, I wish I just was myself, Swiss.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was saying, back to the early days of my career, you know what I mean? I was sort of, trying to uphold an image that wasn't necessarily myself. You know what I mean? Trying to be the suave guy, you know what I mean? I don't know if you noticed, but like the earlier Swiss videos, like everything was like suave and like, you know what I mean? I sort of, it was sort of played myself out to be this lover boy kind of dude, you know what I mean? But I think that was where I sort of fell into that trap and I sort of dug a hole for myself that I sort of, like I said, I'm sort of trying to break out of now because I am that lover guy sometimes, but no, but I mean, you know what I mean? That's not 100, that's not me, you know what I mean? That's not me on a daily basis. There's still very much more to Swiss that the world doesn't know of, you know what I mean? And that's where I'm trying to think. I want to be that approachable guy that everyone can sort of, go say what's up to and, all those sort of things. So.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then getting to talk to you tonight, man, you are approachable and like, so relatable and like there's a connection and so man, I'm excited to see what's next in this new journey. So man, big ups to you, Doko.
Thank you, my dog.
Because what's coming up? You might have a project coming up.
Yeah, I've got a single dropping next month in July. I don't know when this is going to air, but yeah, it's dropping in July. And then sort of got a little project dropping off the back of it. So I'm excited. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you write it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And to be honest, musically, I think this is one of the first ones I've been like happy with in a long time. Like just 100% just, I'm excited for the world to hear what's coming. You know what I mean? There's no doubts in my mind of You know what I mean? I'm not even thinking about the outcome of it. I just want to get this music out to the world, and hopefully everyone loves it and feels everything that I'm trying to get across.
Are you able to talk about the song or?
Yeah, So the next song, it's called Never. That's going to be my first single from this EP that I've got coming out, and the EP's titled Rosera. That's my wife's middle name. So I sort of pieced it together, and I sort of wanted to dedicate, because I think over the years all my stuff has been like, say for example, my first EP was Mr. Slow Wine, and we had Lucky Man, and I had all these different alias names for like myself as an artist, and I think this will be the first one where I'm sort of going outside of myself, and I just wanted to dedicate it to her, and then
so cool, man.
Extra brownie points.
Yeah.
We and boys another baby in one.
But how was it Swiss, in terms of you and Tree working together, collaborating together? Because some couples can't, there's always that friction. I can't work with them.
Yeah.
But it seems like you guys like there's a real chemistry when you guys working together. So how's that been with you?
There's plenty of that. There's plenty of clashing, bro. I'm not, usually I like to get one of our younger brothers and junior songgetters, so he'll come in, and it's always good to have that third ear sort of there to think. But I mean, I think when we really need to get something done, we can both get it done. But I think we're still really different in terms of our creative processes. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those things. It's gonna take a while, but we'll get there in the end of being able to find the balance of, you know what I mean, being there. Like I think it's, especially as like solo artists too. We're both solo artists, and we both control everything that we do individually. So it's when we're coming together. Whether I'm working on hers, I've got to drop my ego a bit and sort of be there more as a support than someone trying to dictate everything that's happening in studio. So I think those are all the sort of things that we sort of come to face together.
That's cool, bro. That's cool.
How was it when you guys had to do your album together? What was it called?
The Mr. and Mrs. EP. It was cool, I think. But like I said, it comes out like flowers at the end, but there was a lot of shit in between. I think that was one of the first sort of big projects that we're able to sort of work on together.
So good, dude.
Yeah, but I think it's still very important for everyone to know that it's not all glitz and glamour. You know what I mean? This is still very real life. You know what I mean? None of what you see on social media is all you see. Me and my wife are your normal couple, though. You know what I mean? We still have our debates and things like that. But once you get it right, it comes out like that. The Mr. and Mrs. EP.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I remember watching the video clip, man. Bro, you're a good actor, man.
Thank you, Miles.
Bro,
I wasn't acting; that was real, bro.
You are, man. Good actor for this guy, man. He's a good actor, man.
That's cool. I think if anything, being able to do what you love with your number one is awesome. You know what I mean? And I think, it's been a blessing that I've been able to do it with her. You know what I mean? So,
But what's been one of the greatest learnings in terms of being married now, in terms of thus far, in terms of being a husband?
Communication was, like I said, and it comes back to what we were talking about before. Like us Islander men, we're not much talkers, So I think that's sort of become something that I've had to sort of learn, is to be able to not just communication and sort of letting her know what I'm doing and things, but more so communicating my emotions and how I'm feeling too. Because before, when we first got married, I was one of those dudes, if I was angry, I was quiet the whole day, you know what I mean? And I just wouldn't let anything go. But those are the sort of things that I've had to learn. And I've also had to learn and understand her feelings too. I think as men, sometimes we can just be like, oh, get over it. But females, they're wired a different way too. And we've got to learn to sort of understand them at the same time as well.
Who helped you process these understandings? Because for a lot of our men, if you don't learn this stuff, you keep on doing what you only know, and then your relationship
don't get me wrong, I still fall into my bad habits and things like that, but I think I have, what's important is that I have an awareness now of, you know what I mean? I think if anything, like I said before, and I'll say it again, happy wife, happy life is a real thing. You know what I mean? As much as we joke about it with the boys and whatnot, but it is a really real thing, because, I mean, if home's not taken care of, you can't take on the world. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that's very important is taking care of your spouse and your family.
We use our family uses happy spouse, happy house. Cause I want to be happy too. Nah, but yeah. If my wife was happy, then man, I'm happy.
She just needs to buy some chocolate.
Nah, man, triangles for life. Hey, we got some new merch, guys. We got the baby oil coming out and our mandate triangles.
We get the Illuminati.
The Illuminati undies. Oh, bro. Hey, give me some of those undies when you do it. Yeah, hey, you know what? Let's do it, bro.
Oh, you know what?
We'll just grab socks in there. We'll
You know what? I'm inspired to do triangles, comfortable ones.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then when that comes out, they're gonna go, that was the pasta. And then they're like, I knew there was something up with their pasta. Look at him, he's standing in the
That's why he got stood down.
He's being authentic, man. Oh man, we'll get back to fatherhood also, because your husband and fatherhood. What's I guess in terms of fatherhood and being a father to 3 kids, also what's the greatest learnings for you now that you got kids? Obviously, sometimes people say that when you become a father, it's not about you anymore. It's about them. And so, is that statement true, or is there something else that you've kind of garnered and learned along the way as a father?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I think, but then, yeah, I think it's being a parent is one of those things where you continue to learn new things every day. I think one of the coolest things about it is that you also realize that kids are very much like adults. Not everyone's the same. You know what I mean? They have to be treated a little bit different. Like, say, for example, I expected my daughter to be chilled just like my oldest boy, and that wasn't the case. And then I've got my little fella now who's really chilled. I think it's being a parent is a cool thing. I think it teaches you everything daily, man. So, yeah. It's awesome.
Man,
What's been the most surprising thing about parenthood? Something that you just weren't prepared for, that sort of you've had to adapt to?
The waking up before you're supposed to wake up. Because your children are starving in the kitchen, and you can hear all the kitchen doors and the fridge and
the pans banging.
Yeah, and then you're like, I've got to get up. Nah, but I guess that's why you have a good wife that gets up and sort of sorts the kids out as well. So
She's trying to get you up.
Yeah, it's like, babe, come on, babe, you can do it. And my triangle undie.
Just the only time I don't wear my undies. Oh no, sorry. Hey, talk about, because originally you're from Upper Hutt, eh?
Yeah. So born in Lower Hutt Hospital, raised in Upper Hutt, Trentham to be exact, in Upper Hutt till I was about 12 years old. Finished intermediate there, and then we made the move across the dish to Australia. So. Yeah, it was a pretty cool upbringing. It was pretty, it's quite a small town, you know what I mean? It's, yes, everyone will say that we're from Wellington, but we're sort of in our own little area in the Hutt Valley there. Lower Hutt, sort of, that's where more of our islanders in there are, but we're sort of situated on the other end of the valley. But it was a good upbringing, typical islander upbringing, raised up in church, the Methodist church. Yeah, and it's pretty much like everyone else, really. So yeah, it's not much different.
Favorite childhood memory?
Getting the first PS1 when it came out.
PS1.
Yeah.
What was your game?
It was Tekken 3. Tekken 3. So we had Tekken 3, and then that broke, and then we were stuck with the demo CDs for. Yeah, but yeah, Tekken 3. I remember my dad getting it for us one Christmas. My brother had to draw Jin on a piece of paper to show him what Tekken, you know. So yeah, that was a pretty good one. Even though I never really got my 10, there's about 6 boys in. There's about 6 boys and I was number 5. I was
Give you
number
the fake
5.
controller not plugged in. Like, yeah, all good.
Yeah. Then you get angry and turn it off because there was no memory card.
That's cool.
But would you ever go back and settle in Australia?
Pardon? Would I ever go back there?
Would you ever go back there?
I would love to. I think, as much as I was born and raised in a part, I think I learnt everything, through my teenage years, I picked up a lot of everything that I know in Australia. So Brisbane's still very much home to me, you know what I mean? So, I would like to go there. If there was anywhere in Australia that I would go back to, it would definitely be Brisbane. Up the Marines.
Up the Marines. Let's talk about it.
Well, how about the collaborations? Because I know there's a lot of good artists out there in the rap game and in the music industry in Australia. And a lot of our polys are really popping. Is there any collaborations in the pipeline with some of those guys there, or even here in New Zealand?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think, I think if it comes up, it comes up. I'm not one to try and force something. I think if it's music, we've got to sort of, all happen in due time. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think it's one of those things. It could always happen, but when it does happen, we'll just have to wait and find out.
Yeah, but how do you feel about the? Because it seems like Australia's doing something.
Bro, it's popping there,
what's going on? What's happening over there?
Yeah, man. To be honest, I had to move here to try and do the music thing. So I moved here in 2012 because we couldn't do it professionally from over there. Social media was in its early stages at that time. You know what I mean? At that time when you sort of put out a song, you got 2,000 views. You're like, yeah, I've cracked it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was in its earlier stages, and I had to come here. I think it was me and who else would have been? Sammy J. Wow. We were the two who came from Australia to make our name here because it was it wasn't really. I mean, you probably could have done it, but I think it sort of fast tracked our sort of. Fast-tracked everything when we came over here. Because I think our people had been supported here for a long time, so we saw the opportunity to come here. I think this is the first place we came and I seen people like me on the side of buses and, you know what I mean? And it wasn't a wanted thing, It wasn't a reward. Yeah, so I think it was one of those things. We had to come to Auckland, the mecca of our people and create a name for ourselves and do this thing professionally here. And then eventually we tracked back and went to Australia and did all the, you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's funny how times have changed. Because what is it? Because obviously you would know, you're in the industry. What is it about Australia they got all these people, all our polys, doing some amazing stuff in terms of the music industry, sports, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's just their time at the moment. You know what I mean? I think it's just their time to be able to think. I think, back... when we were younger and you had the sort of the Dawn Raid era and all those sort of things, that was our time. You know what I mean? That was New Zealand's time to be able to make a name for themselves. And now these guys are the fresh new birds dishing out Polynesian music, and they've become the more recognised faces of this era. You know what I mean? And big ups to them. You know what I mean? I think it's cool to see a lot of the Aussie kids because back then it was. We had the New Zealand rappers and then the Australian rappers. They would have never been able to get away with rapping in the accent back then. You know what I mean? But I just think, it's God's timing, man. Like all of a sudden UK rappers were singing, and then the transition from UK rappers to these guys was a lot easier. Whereas if we went from the American straight to the Aussie hip hop, it probably wouldn't have been as. Yeah. Half of them were probably rapping with American accents back then. But I mean, it's so good that they've been able to embrace their culture, and even some of our young kids here rapping with New Zealand accents now, So.
Wow, what a transition, What a transition.
Yeah.
A positive one as well.
Yeah,
that's interesting, Do you think, just thinking about like sometimes there's a time to like chip away and wait for your time, and then other times when it's like you kind of have to like follow the wave or ride the wave. How do you determine when's the best time to follow, like to move to find success, and when is it time to just knuckle down and stay where you are and trust that it'll come back full circle?
I wouldn't even know. I think, but it is very important to try and stay on your path. You know what I mean? Because if you follow what's popping, you're only gonna stay popping for as long as it's popping for. You know what I mean? It's easy for us to go, you know, and then at the same time too, also when you're following what's popping, your heart's never fully in it either. So I think it's always good to try and stay solid. And I say this as someone who's sort of fallen into that chapter of trying to do, you know what I mean, things that are sort of a bit more foreign to myself, you know what I mean? And it never ends up good.
It almost seems like, and maybe it's just the vibe I'm picking up, or like just from your experience, there's almost like a spiritual sense in terms of like knowing yourself to know what's the best course of action. Because there's lots of options, lots of doors, but if you don't have a good grasp on your own spirit and you know what you need to nourish your own artistic ability or anything like that, then it's kind of hard to find your way if you don't have that sense of self. Yeah,
Definitely.
Man, Toko, you mentioned Dawn Raid. How was your time there? Are you able to talk about your time there, your experience in Dawn Raid?
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, it was a good time. If anything, it was an awesome experience for me. Especially, I mean, there's no one like Dawn Raid when it comes to, you know, giving an artist a name and giving them leverage within this industry. You know what I mean? So I'll forever be grateful for my time with Dawn Raid. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a crazy couple of years, man. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, nice. Shout out to Brother D, eh? Yeah, nice.
Any future aspirations outside of music?
Nah, not really. Not really. I think, if anything, I think, like I said before, music's the only thing I'm good at, so I'll continue. I mean, there's other things that I have love for, but I think they're more so hobbies, and if anything, but what I eventually sort of dabble into, you know, I don't know just yet. But yeah, I would like to look at something maybe after, probably more like nurturing and developing artists. I would like to sort of get into that, especially our Pacifica kids, you know what I mean? So,
What other hobbies outside of like, obviously with music, you know, a lot of people will do music as a hobby, but what else do you do outside of music as a hobby that sort of gives you like just good vibes, good feelings, healing maybe?
This year, it's funny you said it. This year I actually decided I was going to go back and play rugby. So I'm playing my first season of rugby in like 10 years. It's not rugby league, but it's union. But I'm happy that I've decided that I'm going to say on my weekends off when I'm not gigging, I'm playing for the senior A's at Eden Rugby Club. Ooh. So yeah, that's something else that I don't know. I just sort of said to myself, I was like, man, I haven't done this in so long, but I grew up playing rugby. You know what I mean? And I think over the years I sort of realized that, like, you know, this what I do for work is not necessarily as physical, so I don't really get to do much stuff physically. So yeah, it was something that was exciting for me. So yeah, I've been lacing up the boots and getting smashed around a bit, you know. But I love it, man. It's all, you know.
Well, let me guess. So you know the forwards flank. You're the flank.
Yeah. So I got number eight. So,
number 8. Oh.
Yeah, I ended up on the wing about 2 weeks ago. Bro, I honestly thought, I was like, oh man, bro, I'll just have a rest out there. And then I forgot that when they kicked the ball back, you had to drop it. My poor fullback, he got the ball, he was running up and he was looking behind him, and I was in the front. Trying to make my way back. But yeah, like, to be honest with you, like, I grew up playing rugby and that, so it's good to just go out there. Not just that, but the camaraderie and that, you know what I mean? I love the competition. I remember my first touch of the ball was against Waitemata. But as soon as I got the ball, I turned around, I got head high straight away. I got up, bro, I was rocked. I was like literally dazed, and the captain chest goes, hey, Toa, you all right? And I looked at him, I go, yeah, I'm all good, but I was gone. Because I knew if I came off at the moment, those Waitemata boys would have been drinking after, like, yeah, we got him. But it was a good welcome back to footy, so, yeah.
Man. It's funny, that feeling, you know, being rocked and being like, damn, but still putting on a brave face.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just reminded me of like parenting with more than one child. Honestly, is so difficult. I've only got 2, so I mean, some of the boys got way more, and you know, I know I shouldn't be complaining, but there's just times sometimes as a parent where you're like, bro, this is too much, but you still put on a brave face and just try and power through it. But I just thought it was hilarious. Like, I don't know, is it just me, or Am I the only one struggling with that?
Bro, I travelled with my 1-year-old and my 6-year-old, my 2 boys in the weekend. Bro, I told my wife when she got back from Samoa, like, never again, never again. Like, you know, like, you think in your mind, like when we travel in there, I've got my son all the time. But just that little bit of help, it's a massive change, eh? You know what I mean? But I was on that plane. I think we had to get up at like 3 a.m, get to the airport. You know, we were flying at 6. So then when I got there, I was tired. And this kid decided he's awake for the whole flight. We massive shout out to our dads out there doing it solid.
Yeah, hard up.
So how was your reaction? These big hug or was just a...
When I saw a tree, oh mate, yeah, I was happy as when she got back. Yeah, I said to her, never again, darling, never again.
Oh, man.
We talk a lot about like what are people's self-care. Like, do you have anything? Or what's self-care to you? And do you have what did we call it? Like an avenue for you to have an outlet, or is music the thing?
I think that's what rugby is for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like going out there and smashing my body physically. You know what I mean? I think that's sort of an outlet. But I mean, self-care to me is also like, I know it sounds weird, like we're in a day and age now where everyone sort of says like remove yourself from like places that you feel uncomfortable and things like that. But like this year I've really been I've been trying to push myself to learn to make myself feel comfortable in places that I feel uncomfortable, because sometimes it's just your mind. You know what I mean? Like I could be somewhere getting anxiety and I'm sort of sitting there sort of thing, but then like as before I would just be like, oh, I'm going to find an excuse to leave here or like thing. Whereas now I'm like, I just face everything front on. So I think if anything, that's my sort of thing of self-care now, is try to, you know, deal with whatever sort of head on.
Jeez, that's good, bro.
Become comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Eh?
Yeah. It's like something like this tonight. Like, you know, I could have ended up being like, oh, nah, I'm too nervous about what we're going to go in there and talk about. And then I could have messaged and made up an excuse not to come through. You know what I mean? But like, you know, like I said, it's about doing things that, you know, like, I think in life, you're never going to be able to experience life fully if you're sort of treading lightly. You know what I mean? I think it's, as human beings, we were sort of created to go out and experience life in its full experience. You know what I mean? I think social media, as much as it's been good connecting us, it's also limited us when it comes to actual real life social
face to face.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like, if there's anyone watching, man, and you sort of feel that you can't leave your room, I encourage you to get up and leave that room. Will be the best decision you ever made. You know, so.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because it is. I think as men, you know, this thing that's embedded in us, ingrained in us in terms of being conquerors. Go out there and face the uncomfortable and be comfortable with it, and be courageous, even in the midst of fear and adversity. I'm glad you said that, bro, because there's imagine a lot of men who are watching this or who are listening to this, like, man, I really want to do something. And because I've heard, I was talking to a guy yesterday. He wants to do something. He wants to start his own business. T-shirt business, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not too sure," but he watched the podcast, one of the podcasts with Dre Skrilla, and he said he didn't realize, like, well, you guys are actually doing this, and he listened to this, man, I feel really inspired to do something, because if I'm watching these Poly and Māori men get up and have the muster, the courage to do something, and be uncomfortable with it, but still push themselves. That's what kudos. I think that's what we need to be doing, and I love it that you say that encouraging men to get up.
And I'm not saying it's easy though. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not easy. You know what I mean? But like, one thing that I can say, like, it's better. It's gonna work out so much better for you in the long run. Like, you know, once you fall into that trap, it gets harder and harder the longer you sit there. But I mean, it's all mental too. Once you decide that you're gonna get up and move, it's like I said, it's not gonna be easy trying to get out of it. But I think it is good to sort of. Yeah, I think confinement is the worst thing you could ever do to yourself. Like, solidarity is the worst thing you could do to yourself.
Yeah, because you isolate yourself with just your own thoughts.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, I think our brains are meant to be, you know, like, we need to train our brains to be able to, go out there and, deal with life experiences, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And yeah, I know the first couple of days or weeks or months are going to be draining mentally, but you need to do it. I think it's one of these things, like go out for that coffee with your mate that's been dragging on for the last 6 months. You know what I mean? Do these things, It's always going to help you in the long run.
That's awesome, Togo. Because what are your thoughts on depression and anxiety? We hear it all the time now, mental wellness, mental well-being, in terms of our men. What are your thoughts on all of that's been talked about on social media, TV, all that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts?
I think they're very real. You know what I mean? They are very real things. Whether you've been diagnosed or not, there's feelings that you do feel that are really, really real. And, everyone might, it might be, different reasons as to why you might be feeling like that. But I think any sort of negative feeling is not a good feeling. You know what I mean? And I think it's important that you learn to recognize it early, you know what I mean? And try and, like I said, I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but you've got to learn to try and be comfortable in the uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's only going to train your mind to be stronger. And it's hard. I mean, I could sit on here and say everything, but I just encourage everyone to, sort of, just try and battle it all head on. It's not easy, but yeah.
Nice.
Man, you've shared that you feel like you're only good at music, but man, there's this like mentoring side to you, like so much wisdom, maybe because you've been through it, and like, man, I don't know, you could like this pastoral role for for these up and coming artists. Like, I think you probably don't realize, like, just hearing you and talking to you and just this wisdom that comes from you and how articulate you are around some of the stuff that we're talking about, man, it's like, it'll be an amazing mentor to a lot of these young'uns. And I just wanted to like say that while we had the chance. And man,
thank you. And to be honest with you, like, no word of a lie, on my way here I prayed to God and asked that He gave me the right words. You know what I mean? I think coming on these things is always, like I said to you guys off the mic, I was a bit scared as to what was actually going to think, but I needed to do my prayer on the way here because I felt that if I was here tonight, I needed to be calm and be able to give the right words rather than just be on here talking a whole lot of rubbish. You know what I mean? So thank you for that also, and I'm glad that you felt that. But and I guess God's done His job, and His messengers, sort of got His message across, really. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Now I think it's time for the beer.
Maro Togo. On that note, Togo, you don't mind we talk about sex, do you? Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that's good. It was like, man, and you got that radio voice as well. So you still could be like because Pete already said that he'll pick my FM if they ever gave him a call over mandate.
We could be this. There's voiceover guys on C4.
Oh man, it's so cool. It is. You are real chill. I think a lot of the guys you're good friends with, Poetic, Reggae, Chris, Biggs, and you guys all have the same familiar presence about yourselves. People think, oh, there's these artists, rap artists or reggae artists, but I don't think what people kind of gauge or understand is that you guys are very, very, very clever in your own right in terms of what you guys do. And bro, Dogo, you are. That's some of the things you've shared tonight. It reveals who you really are as a person. Like you were saying, this is who you are. But we're getting a little bit of a glimpse of who you are, Dogo.
So, Dogo,
yeah, man. So, props, man. Props.
Props to Swiss 685.
He could potentially become a pastor. And we're trying undies.
You never know, Tuko. You might be a pastor, Tuko, man.
No, I think what I was saying, like, bro, you're definitely right. And to be honest with you, when you asked the question before about like anything that I would like to do, I have to think, man, I would love to do something like that. You know what I mean? Being able to give back to our kids and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, I came into this music at a really young age because I loved being able to make people feel good. You know what I mean? I love being able to stand on stage, and that sort of become from started off at like whakame, which is our White Sundays. You know what I mean? So I love being able to do something that would bring some goodness to someone's life. So yeah, who knows, man? I could sort of dabble into something like that. If it's not pastoring or thing like that, like it definitely has to be something with the youth. You know, just giving back and sort of trying to help out in whatever way I could.
Yeah, solid. It should be a mean youth worker, social worker, mandate co-host, whatever you want.
All good until the kids outside smoking with me. Who gave you those smokes?
Pasta.
Because bass. You got any funny stories of bass that you want to share?
I think this one's a bit off camera.
Okay, I can't wait to hear.
That's my also, man. You know when I talk about my party, bro, that guy is, he can party, bro. You know, so.
Cool.
Yeah, shout out to my also bass.
Oh, man. Back to your music, Tuko. For all the tracks you've sung and all the tracks that you've done, which one out of all them has been the one you feel like, man, this was the ultimate, this was my favorite, this was the best one that's come out, I thoroughly enjoyed it, this is the one that, oh man, so much memories around it.
Man, I think with me it would always have to be Slow Wind. Like and that's just solely based off like the fact that it was my first song that sort of broke the ice for me. I think if there wasn't that song, there's no me. You know what I mean? So it would always go back to that first song. And like, to be honest with you, all these years, I think I've been doing this professionally for about 10, 11 years now. That song is still the one that goes off at every show. You know what I mean? So, and if you think about it, some of these kids were 8 when I came out. Now they're 8. Now they're 18 at the festivals. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess that's the true testament that, like, that music lives forever. So, yeah.
But how does it feel now? Like when you're aging and you're seeing these young people or youngins watch you and listen to your music. How does it for you? How does it feel for you, kind of aging in the industry and also in the music?
Yeah, it's cool. It definitely makes me feel older. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I think that's cool. I think this industry is like anything else. It's never promised how long you're going to be able to do it for. You know what I mean? So it's been a blessing to be able to, continue to do this, 10 plus years now. You know what I mean? I think the time that I'll really consider stopping it is if I see one of my kids at my shows. The moment that happens, I'm like, yeah, time to hang it up now. You see their dad on stage, like, I mean, it's been a blessing also. Like I said, it's never guaranteed how long you're going to be able to do this for.
Just make the most of it, eh?
Yeah,
it's like fine wine, eh? Fine wine.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's weird because, like, even when we do like shows in that now, like, I'm part of the older crew. So my behavior doesn't seem like I'm one of the older guys, but yeah.
Man, that's so cool to have like a piece, essentially like a piece of the music scene forever. Like that's part of your legacy that, you have carved out a piece of the industry in this period of time for all of eternity, that like this is you got a piece of that, and it's something that your kids will be able to look back on and all that. So I think that's really cool. And sort of just talking earlier about like, it's just fascinating the influence of the mind. Like it can be your biggest weapon, but also it can destroy you if you let it, when you're talking about like being isolated and all that. And so I was just curious about like your thoughts on the importance of like opening up to others. Like sometimes we'll open up to like our wife, maybe our parents, but like, do you think there's a need to open up to people outside of our family, or do you think we should find those people within our family to open up to?
I think you should be able to open up to whoever you feel comfortable with. And I say it more so like, I think if anything, it should be it should be someone that you very much trust and someone that you can expect to sort of hold that space for you. But I think it shouldn't be limited to just our family. I think, that sort of, that sometimes we can't even talk to our family, you know what I mean? And I think it's just whoever you can sort of find that thing. Like it could be your workmate or, but like just someone that you really trust. And I think it's more so someone who's willing to listen rather than sort of respond.
That's cool. And we were talking before about how great a mentor you would be. And I wonder, when you think back to your childhood growing up, like who was that key mentor for you that influenced, you becoming the man that you are today? And what was it about them that made them so special?
It would have to be, I think I've said it before, it would have to be my older brother Sika. I think one of the biggest things that I saw him do was, regardless of, what he sort of accomplished within his career, he was still the very same person, you know what I mean? Both on the field and off the field, you know what I mean? So I think the way that he's always been was always something that I sort of looked up to. He's the man. What you see is what you get. He's not much of a talker. He led by example, you know what I mean? So yeah, he's definitely someone I sort of always looked up to in terms of, being the man.
That's cool, man. Doko, like, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself to the 2014 Swiss?
Everything's going to be okay. I think that's what I would have told him, because I think at that time, there was just so much going on in my head, you know what I mean? And I think you sort of never really know what's going to be the end of, or when it's going to end, you know what I mean? So I think if anything, it was more so like, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be all good. Take care of yourself first,
That's me. And in terms of Tree, like how much has she been like a pillar to you in terms of your growth as a man?
Oh, massively. Her career was sort of starting around that same time. And when I decided that I was going to leave in 2014, she left her parents and everything and came with me back to Brisbane, just to be there to support me through whatever it was that I was going through, you know what I mean? And I look back at it and I sort of feel like it was a very selfish move on my behalf, but it was a really selfless move on hers, you know what I mean? So I'll forever be thankful for her for doing that. I think she was, like how we were saying, how you just asked the question about like, whether you should confide in your family and things like that. Like, at that time she was only my girlfriend, so she wouldn't have been considered as family, but she was that person that I could talk to about whatever. I could be myself around, like I could be my whole self, you know what I mean? So she's been massive, you know what I mean? And that's why, I always refer back to her, like throughout this whole podcast, you know what I mean? I've been talking about, taking care of my wife and things like that. Like, it's because that's how much she means to me. What she's sort of, she's, I know it sounds cliche, but she has been through the mud with me. You know what I mean? And she didn't have to, but she did. So I'll forever be grateful that she, did that for me.
Yeah, props, man. It is. I think for a lot of men who found themselves an amazing wife or a great wife, there needs to be a place and time where we kind of, just give them props for the help and for the influence they've had in our lives. And it seems like your journey with Tree has just been one of those, I don't know, in terms of love story, but it's just been like you said before that, there's times when you clash. Any couple.
Definitely hit the world. Let's not get there wrong. You know what I mean? But love conquers all. You know what I mean? And
You can't deny the love, eh? You can't deny the love.
Yeah.
But it is. I think for every man, that's the hope, or you find the love of your life, or you find someone who's with you, who goes through the mud with you, who's there to the death. But man, you find yourself a good lady, also.
Yeah, she's gonna wipe my bum when I'm too old.
And it's cool you talk about her like that, because I think sometimes as men, like, we sort of standoffish about talking about our wives, like, in that light. Even saying the words like happy wife, happy life is like, that's what a pussy, like, you know. And it's like, you're the man. And so, like, us having this conversation, you being able to, like, just say that freely, man, it's good. We need to, like, normalize that and pump up our wives so we can pump up in the bedroom. Sorry. Get that out, man. I'm not gonna get in trouble, man.
Me and my brothers talk heavily about it. Like, you know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, like, bro, it takes a lot for any woman to handle an island boy. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not just us. You're taking on our whole family and all those commitments too. You know what I mean? So I think our partners, you know, whatever they might be, whatever, you know, for them to be able to put up with, you know, with us, not just us, but, you know, everything else that comes with us is massive too. So, I mean, we've got to give props, man, you know?
Yeah. But how has it been, like, cross-culturally in terms of Tonga and Samoa, like, coming together, like, in terms of family and so forth? How's that been for you and Tree?
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool. I think growing up, I thought we were very much the same. Like this, the main morals and values are still very much similar, but there's still a lot of things that are very different as well. Like my whole life, I thought you guys tunupuaka as well. I didn't know that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but but I mean, I think it's been cool, you know what I mean? Apart from World Cup time, but but it's been cool. I've learnt. My first Samoa's gone better over time.
Wow.
And she sort of you know, has learnt a bit more Tongan over time. So we're still very it's still very important to us to install our culture within our kids too. So, you know, like they do their Tongan prayer, they do their Samoan stuff for White Sunday, you know, the White Sunday and things like that. So, yeah, it's been cool.
And your kids get the best of both worlds, eh?
Yes.
And to our losers, then it's
Yeah. So, yeah, the cultural stuff, it's cool, you know. So I think it's cool.
That's cool, because that's the struggle for lots of people. Like, I know for myself as well, that are born in New Zealand and don't necessarily have strong ties to the language or the culture. Like, trying to learn something yourself so that you can pass it on. But then even if you have, like, you and your wife, two different cultures, like, getting the best of both worlds is possible, but it's a lot of work, I imagine, and a lot of communication between both parties. I imagine that for a lot of couples, it's prioritizing one over the other, or depends on lots of different things.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, it's very important that when my kids go to either side, they feel comfortable on either side. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to go to one side and, like, say, for example, they go to the Tongan side and they only speak Samoan, or them to go to the Samoan side and they only speak Tongan. Like, you're sort of throwing them into the deep end of that, you know what I mean? So, like, I want my kids to be comfortable whatever side they go to, you know what I mean? So that's why we try and, you know, instill both cultures in them. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's possible.
It's been...
Because I've seen it. It's quite common. So it's like you get the half Tongan, half Samoan, or half whatever, and you see like, oh, what are you? I'm half Tongan, half Samoan, but I only speak Tongan.
Yeah.
I'm more on my Samoan side.
Yeah.
You see that, and it's cool. It's cool that you kind of get into the place where you and Tree like, hey, we need to change things a bit in terms of the traditional upbringing.
Oh, but I'm still trying to put in more Tongan. Nah, but I think with her, the reason why she wants to encourage them to speak more Tongan is because we're here with, like, you know, her parents in there, or here, whereas mine are in Australia. So that's why she's a bit more thing with sort of encouraging them to speak Tongan, you know what I mean? Because we go to her parents' church, which is Samoan AOG, you know what I mean? So, you know, they're around a lot of the Samoan stuff and things like that. So I think that's, you know, she sort of encourages them to learn the Tongan things a bit more.
Do you think that'll get harder to like maintain that balance as the kids get older, especially if they're going to like a mainstream school where maybe there's not much like cultural groups or cultural events happening? Do you think it'll get harder as they get older, or?
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be some difficulties on the way. Like, but I think for me, like what I've learned, like with the Samoan language, it's actually very similar, and like it's totally up to you how difficult you want to make it. You know what I mean? So I think it will be easy for them to, you know. I think it's like anything else. If they want to, then they will. But I mean, yeah, when it comes to high school and that, whatever group they choose to do, whether it be Indian or Maori, I don't mind. You know, it's all. You know, I encourage them to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just been cool to meet you and sit here and chop it up with you and just seeing a different light of you, like especially from someone that we like watch and listen to on the radio, and so I'm just really blessed to like get to share a beer with you, Toko, and just hear your heart, and man, just encouraged and can't wait to see like the next stage, and can't wait to like for your time to come around again, and it seems to me like regardless, like if you get, you know, you have this massive ride or whatever, that you're still gonna keep on making music and still being you, and I'm just blessed, brother. So just thank you so much, Toko, and man, I just hope that like you come back and just co-host, bro, because you got the
co-host was
I'll be keen. I think you will be sick of me by the second episode. Hey, welcome to Swiss's podcast, everybody. These are the mandate guys.
like you said, Toko, this is us, the Swiss community.
What are you doing?
Nah, I just can't wait till like I send you my merch and you start rocking now. Triangle Aunties.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, Toko, just to reiterate what Charles said, bro, tonight's been awesome. You coming on tonight, but also getting to meet you face to face. Yeah, we hear you on the airwaves, we hear your music. We appreciate your music and what you do as an artist, but when we see you face to face and get to talk to you and hear your heart as well. But also the one thing that I really got out of tonight really is the mind. I love it that you said, you know, in the midst of darkness, in the midst of your hardships and struggles, you need to push yourself. And I love it that we as men, we need to get to behind each other and push each other, even if, you know, even during those hard times, we need to push each other, but also be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I like it that you're doing what you're doing, and conveying that, and also inspiring us and sharing with us to do that and to push and to persevere. So Toko, mad love, Toko, off atu, man. This has just been an awesome conversation, awesome talanoa. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Toko, I think if anything, it's just as much as a blessing for me to be on here too. I think the conversations we had tonight, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to these things, and I know that that's your guys' mission with what you guys are trying to do. So I'm happy that you were able to get that sort of stuff out of me tonight, and we were able to sort of relay that message and sort of pass on whatever we could. So thank you guys for, you know, even bringing me in to have a chat, have a beer, and just, you know, be able to sort of shed some light on, you know, mental awareness and all those sort of mental health awareness and all those things.
Our pleasure, man. Our pleasure.
Man, it's always cool, like when a guest comes in and we just feel comfortable straight away, like straight off the bat, just having a laugh, kicking back, but also just the journey and the struggles. Like, it's so relatable. And it's just cool that even though we can operate in different fields, we all have our own challenges, but yet the learnings, you know, we can pull from that and apply it in our own way to our own lives. So it's just cool to see you, like the acknowledgement and the maturity, like seeing your journey and like your personal growth as an artist, as a parent, as a son. It's just really cool and inspiring to hear that delivered in like a relatable way. Like you didn't try and like add any extras to it. You were just quite real and just yourself. And I think your heart really just shines through on there. So just big ups to you and also to the family for holding it down, because we know that, you know, we're nothing without our family. So yeah, appreciate you.
Malo toko. Toko, we every guest that comes on, we always give them a gift. And so Toko, this is for you on behalf of the Mandate team. Malo lava, malo pito.
Oh, thank you, my toko. I actually thought you were going to pull out some Monday stuff. I was behind the this is actually really dope. Thank you very much. Who did this? Wow, thank you. So that's yours?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought he just meant like you go and buy it. Wow.
Man.
Oh, thank you, Togo. Appreciate it, man. That man. Thank you, Togo. Thank you, man. Oh, this is going up in my studio. Oh, thank you, Docs. Wow, check that out, guys.
Man, thanks, Docs.
$250. You want some of this? $250.
Malo Togo. Hey, is there anyone that you can think of that would be ideal to come on the podcast, Togo?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a whole heap. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think, you know, but the deal will be one to get on here. You know, he's definitely the man when it comes to these sort of things. Yeah, I think we've got heaps of people here in Auckland who are very influential and can, you know. But yeah, give me a yeah if there's anyone that you are trying to get a hold of that you might not be able to think.
Awesome, man.
Try and connect the dots or whatever, you know.
Oh, man, love her.
It would be cool to get Tree on one day and see. Oh,
Yeah, of course.
What's Swiss like?
What's this hippie wife, hippie life stuff? Is it for real?
She wearing a string or?
But now, man, malo lava Togo, malo lava. We always give the guest the last word, Togo. So please, any words of encouragement to the listeners and to those viewers.
Yeah, I think if anything, like just going back on what I was saying before, like if you're going through some stuff, like don't. I know it's hard, and I know it sounds cliche, but you know, do your best to try and lift yourself up. You know what I mean, and get out of that slump. You know, if you're sort of locking yourself in your bedroom and whatnot, like try and get out and about. You know, like I said, life is about going out and experiencing it, good or bad, you know what I mean? But that's all part of life, and we've got to develop our minds to be able to be strong enough to face whatever comes, and that's the only way you can do it, is go out and face life head on. So.
Malo, man. Appreciate it, Togo. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We look forward to your well-thought-out comments. And as usual, brothers,
Unlock.
as usual, brothers,
Refine.
Unlock.
And take charge.
Mandate.